Okay, good afternoon. Well, it could be any time where you are, but welcome to SE25, episode number 7 of this podcast. That echo you can hear is because I'm on my own in the SE25 lair. Um, I felt that we needed to do something. An awful lot of people put a lot of hard work in to get this started. I can happily tell you I did nothing to help get this started. I think I was one of the voices that said, "Are we sure?" Not really maybe the best idea, but we are here with a lot of people putting in a lot of hard work to get up, I don't fucking know, websites and stuff. Um, but yeah, people are unavailable with illness, travel, or general malaise at the fact that our team is so shit and we just get to talk about how bad we are. Um, I've been around longer than many of you who listen to this, and in the 30 plus years that I've been supporting Palace, they've been relegated several times. We've lost a fucking lot of matches. Um, I haven't shed many tears, but I am at the point where I now have a child who's going to be shedding their own tears. Hopefully not too many more this season, but let's cover the matches that Pods haven't covered lately, which sadly starts off with Man United. Um, the Man United game was somewhat toilet um, towards the end, but started off phenomenally. It's a game where we went 2-0 up against United for the first time, I think, in our Premier League history. Um, before perhaps some errors of the forgivable variety and maybe less forgivable variety occurred, and we ended up losing 3-2 with Matic. And I'm not going to say it's a worldie because it wasn't. It was a decent enough, and he's wearing fucking white Predators. Looks like a fucking Essex boy. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. He's a country friend, teammate of Milivojevic, so he can't be a total cunt, I'm sure. But anyway, the game started terrifically. Townsend, lovely finish. Van Aanholt with probably my favourite goal of the season so far. Schlupp, Van Aanholt combining really nicely to well, just take advantage of United not paying attention, which is terrific. Really, for me, says a lot about both of them. Schlupp, who had a fairly poor game other than that moment, um, and Van Aanholt, just you can't take or you can't give enough credit to Van Aanholt because the moment he kicked it, I thought he'd missed. Um, he managed to go against all the philosophy of shooting across the goalie to the far post where you've got a much bigger area to hit, and managed to get it kind of almost at waist height, right down a narrow gap at the side of De Gea, who did look a prick with his silly hair. But and that's saying something, as Van Aanholt scored with his looks like a fucking week-old sponge, or maybe a 6-month-old sponge sat on top of his head. But I'm sure in trendy Dutch circles it's a banging haircut. Um, the less said about the rest of the second half, the better. For the first time in a while, perhaps the first time, certainly at this volume and frequency, um, criticisms of our manager. He's a dear old man, and I fear that some of his dear old tendencies are um, coming back to bite him, and perhaps that seems to be where a lot of the fan base is talking. The issue is he didn't make any substitutions, or the substitutions he did make were too late, and he didn't change when we were 2-0 up. He didn't change to let's say a 5-4-1, or he changed Riedewald for Schlupp in the 80th minute. By that point, let me just check that I'm not lying to you. In the 80th minute, the score was 2-2. So yeah, I think we can perhaps say that was too late. We could have certainly, I mean, even if he doesn't want to make a substitution because he's only got Delaney, Yak on the bench as centre-backs. You could charitably say Riedewald could have come on as a centre-back. I mean, I'd look at Soiree as perhaps coming on, playing as a centre-back. I don't know, you could put Benteke there. There's an awful lot of things you could do, and I think Townsend, Milivojevic, MacArthur, Schlupp, Sorloth and Benteke were all looking very leggy. Our defence was looking quite leggy, kind of after maybe the 60th minute. And yeah, I don't think anybody would have complained if he'd gone full Pulis and just put 10 at the back with one in goal. Wan-Bissaka was probably the highlight of that game. Played really well, just was really solid. Great to see a kiddie out of the youth team coming and doing well. I'm not going to burn all my good Wan-Bissaka comments because when we talk about Chelsea in a minute, he also shone. I think that is probably enough said about United. I'd like to talk very quickly about Frank de Boer saying that Rashford is not getting the best out of playing for Mourinho, and Mourinho said that Frank de Boer was the worst Premier League manager of all time. So let's not forget our ex-manager and how he gifted us this terrific start to the new season. And we are still overcoming that. I think if you look at those first few games of the season, and even if you added a point a game average, we would be significantly better off now. Anyway, I don't think it was all Frank's fault, but that's for another pod. Yeah, fuck Man United. Let's talk about Chelsea, where we weren't expecting to get a result, but after the last few years, you kind of hope that maybe we'd sneak another one. Lightning did strike twice, because we got a result 2 years ago and last year, but unfortunately, third time wasn't a charm. We even wore our nice white kit, so we kind of looked a little bit sexy, but we had the black socks, which I'm not a fan of with the white kit, but that's Chelsea's fault for wearing white socks. Fuck them. From the start against Chelsea, we weren't brilliant. The Willian goal was one of those that you're trying not to scream too much at the television, the radio. I was about to say CFAX. None of you fucking cunts will know what that is, but CFAX was basically the internet a long time ago on your television, and you had to wait for it to update, and it would update every minute or two, and that was a terrible way to try and keep up to date with football scores, but that's what we had to do when we didn't listen to the radio. And of course, some people were at the Chelsea game. Those who were told me it was quite a good atmosphere. I went with several people who last year sat in the lower section and this year moved, I think, to the higher section because they felt the atmosphere with those Palace fans was better than in the lower section. I haven't been in the away stand at Chelsea. I have no idea. The last time I was there was for the win, and I sat with the Chelsea fans, and that was a shit atmosphere. But yeah, this season, Willian got them underway when he should have been stopped. And then unfortunately, Kelly and Hennessy combined to score an own goal. I felt a little bit sorry for Martin Kelly because I don't think he should carry the can for what was appalling defending up to that point. I don't think any of that particularly poor defending was his fault. He got himself into the right position on the line. The ball beat Hennessy, and unfortunately, Kelly managed to, I think, either hit it onto Hennessy or put it in the goal himself. But yeah, never mind. That's the first half. The second half, we took off the £30 million man. That's Christian Benteke, goal-scoring superstar of kind of late 16, early 17, and then essentially has just been a massive paperweight since then. To bring on young Wilfried Zaha, almost exactly a month from his injury that would keep him out for a month. Lots of voices suggesting that this was another Roy mistake because he needed to give him maybe another week on the bench. Let's make sure he doesn't come back and get injured again. But this was an early Roy substitution. He brought him on at half-time, and pretty much everything changed. We went forward. We looked a lot better. And I think I don't think many people would disagree that we were unlucky. Sorloth hit the post. Personally, I'd be interested in everybody else's views. I liked seeing Sorloth get in front of Zaha, where Zaha could have taken that ball and perhaps scored, but it was on Sorloth's left foot. He took it, he took a touch and beat the goalie, but unfortunately hit the post. Um, I think another day that goes in and you're 2-1 with 40 to play. That would have been quite a good game, perhaps with Zaha on the pitch. Yeah, I mean, last time we played Chelsea, they didn't have Kante. This time they did. I think that was a big difference. Last time they didn't have Giroud, who scores against us for fun, and this time they did have Giroud. So I think there's a few reasons why this Chelsea team were better against us. But we did bring on Lee Chung-yong at 81. We did bring on Riederwald on 75th. And in that last few minutes, we did manage to get another, I believe, another Patrick Van Aanholt goal, which now takes Pat to the best goals per appearances that he's had at any club, which sounds unreal because he came with a reputation for getting a cheeky goal, and it feels like he hasn't scored very many. But that, I think, tells you more about Sunderland's ability to score goals than Van Aanholt's. Again, Wan-Bissaka played well. Everybody had lots of good things to say about him. Just very quickly, I want to talk about Cesc Fabregas because everybody says he fades in the second half of the season and he's toilet. He was awarded man of the match by most of the pundits and people who get listened to. So I don't quite know what to say. But yeah, if we're letting Cesc Fabregas in his traditional weak period play against us so well, maybe we're fucked. However, let's not assume we're fucked because we're now pretty much through our most difficult period with only Liverpool left to play. But Liverpool come after we play Huddersfield. And Huddersfield have some challenges to face of their own because we have Johan Cabaye coming back, we have Momo Sakho coming back, we have Ruben Loftus-Cheek coming back, and I think you'd include Wilfried Zaha in there as a fit player rather than a player who could do 45 minutes. So I think you're going to see a very different Palace team. It will be interesting to see who keeps their places on the bench. I think it's reasonably safe to assume Rakip will keep his place on the bench, Cavalieri will keep his place on the bench. And other than that, do we keep Yak on the bench or do we keep Delaney on the bench? I fucking hope it's not Damo. I'd love to give him a hug and thank him for what he's done for our club, but I think it's time to let that big Polish comb-over Mohican take his stead. So let's see what Huddersfield brings. They got 82% possession the other day against Swansea, which is interesting, and I think the highest recorded possession during the Opta era. Certainly the highest possession by a team in the bottom half. But they aren't scoring, which is great news because we've just started. We've managed to score against Chelsea, managed to score against United. I would suggest that looking forwards, we perhaps play Van Aanholt up front. We've got Schlupp back. We've got Soiree. You know, tell me what you think. I feel it's time for us to throw caution to the wind. We have, make sure I'm not lying to you all, we have 27 points from 30 games. Southampton, they've just fired Pellegrini, having lost to, oh, fuck no, so I don't care. And they have 28 points from 30. West Ham, they have 30 from 30, including the 98 supporters on their pitch at any one time. Huddersfield, 31 from 30. Swansea, 31 from 30. And Newcastle, Bournemouth, Brighton on 32, 33 and 34 respectively. I think Watford and Brighton, I hate saying it, I think they're probably safe. Brighton only needs 6 points from the remaining 8 games. Bournemouth are probably safe. They need 5 points, maybe 7 from 8 games. But I think Newcastle, Swansea, West Ham and Southampton are in trouble with Huddersfield, and hopefully we can put Huddersfield in more trouble. If we do win, we move to 30 points from 31 games. They will be on 31 played with 31 points. So we'll see. And then we've got to go to Liverpool. Now, I'm going to talk about Liverpool a little bit ahead of time, mostly because I don't know much about Huddersfield. Fuck Huddersfield. We are going to beat them. We owe them a kick-in from the opening day of the season where Frank, I think, pulled our trousers down for us and bent us over collectively. But we're now at a point where we are a very different Palace team. I'd be interested to see Cavalieri, who's played on the bench, and I think let me just check I'm not lying to you, because as I speak, we have the under-23s playing. Let me see if Cavalieri is in goal for that, or have they put what's his name Henry in goal for them? Yep, they have a lad called Tupper in goal for the under-23s. The under-23s are playing Yak, Soiree, and Rakip. So I think that's interesting. The bench of the under-23s today also has a young man called Connor Wickham. So let's hope he's not far from getting back in the starting lineup. Yeah, if we can get him back for those last 5 games, he could make all the difference. But anyway, I was going on about Huddersfield and why they're a bunch of wankers, because they robbed us on the first day, and because I think we need to talk about Liverpool. So Liverpool just got beaten, and Liverpool got beaten by, I think, Man United. And that game, let me just check it. I'm not making all this shit up. Yeah, Man United picked on Dejan Lovren and they picked on Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, both of those players are likely to be playing against us. There's a chance as well that they'll be resting perhaps one of Salah, Firmino, and Mane, playing Solanke up front. I hope they do, because I'd like to think with Loftus-Cheek having the inside track on Solanke, we may be able to nullify him a little bit. That 3-pronged attack of Salah, Firmino, and Mane were awesome earlier in the season. But I do think we have the ability to ruffle Lovren, and with our wingers, we can definitely cause Alexander-Arnold some problems. Yeah, I'd be happy to see us really take it to Liverpool and risk losing 3 or 4-0, because we need the points. And I think at this point, respect the point is useful. I'm a big fan of respecting the point, but I think there is a time where perhaps we need 3 more than we need 1. If we beat Huddersfield, it's different. We can go to Liverpool and respect the point, but I think taking it to Liverpool, trying to go 2 up like we did against United, and then hopefully Roy will shut the game down. That would be awesome as far as I'm concerned. In other roundup news, there's an injury I think will come as a huge surprise to many of you. Johnny Williams, on his playing for Sunderland. Sunderland were losing. Johnny Williams, in what I'm going to describe as his cute Wales shin pads, with his ginger beard and his blonde hair, came off, I think, for the 3rd time this season through to injury. So that's not ideal. Yeah, I think that's probably it. I'm not going to talk about Jordan much. He did play for someone in Canada. It may have been baseball. But in better news, in the FA Women's Premier League, Palace destroyed Swindon 8-1. So it's not all doom and gloom at Selhurst. That's yeah, impressive, and I can highly recommend those of you who are bored of going to see all the stupid boys who can't play football nicely, maybe go and see the girls. And 8-1 would have been quite a good game to have watched, but I'm sure that they're not stopping yet. Let's see if we can get there. Oh, and also in other Palace news, we got our an email telling us that we're now able to renew our season tickets in the Lower Holmesdale. So thank you to the HF and Parish and whoever else was getting in the way of that. We will be sat there for I think now the 23rd, 4th year running, and I intend to keep my fat ass there for a lot longer. Thank you for listening to this incredibly short recap podcast. I can only advise joining the Discord, unless you're Australian, in which you will go through a very intense interrogation from Neocast and potentially the other mods. If you want to know more about that, I'd advise joining the Discord, where the misery levels are at peak, relegation fears are at peak, but I disagree. I think we are going to stay up. I did say at the start of the season we're going down. Frank then got the boot, and I'm excited to see Rakip come on, and I think he's going to score against Huddersfield. That's my prediction. And if if I'm on my own again, I'm going to rename this. I'm going to fucking take it over. I might even not share it publicly. I may just make it invite only to fucking cool people. So I really hope that any of you who want to come on as a guest, a host, by all means do. I am not yet the master of this podcast. I didn't intend to be, but I'm enjoying everyone's kind words so far. If you hate me, feel free to tell someone else. And yeah, if you want to come on, please do. Let's try and make the next one at least 2 people. And maybe we'll go from there when I can find people to be inspired to talk about Palace when they lose, which is sadly more often than not. Thanks again.